My plan for Thursday is to follow the Italian TET route up to Forte Jafferau and hopefully reach it without being impeded by snow. However, not far up the hill, I met with this sign forbidding me from continuing any further up the mountain. The route seemingly hasn't been updated in a while. So I just came up here on the Italian TET route, but turns out this road is not legal anymore. I don't know for how long this has been, but I have to go down and come up to Jafferau the other way from Pramand. And so I have to go back down the mountain and find a different way up. The intended route up to Jafferau starts in Zalbertrand.
Now that's a view immediately.
All in this, I stand in. Show me where the end is. Honest, I should be the last to know. All in this, I stand in. Show me.
There's a little road off to the side here that leads to a different fort, the Forte Pramand. The trail up here is a little bit more challenging than the main route, but it's still very manageable on an ADV bike.
That's pretty good, man. Pretty heavy. It was all fine up here, up to here. There we go. That didn't quite go as planned.
All in this, I stand alone.
Really, the most perilous thing about
Show
this whole
me where the ending goes. Honestly, I should be the last to know. All in this, I stand alone. Show me where the ending goes.
Pretty good place to have breakfast here.
Honestly,
On top of Forte Pramand. Well, lunch really. There's the bike over there. And look at these views, I mean it's just unbelievable. Wherever you look it's just gorgeous. The last bit of trail getting up here is actually quite challenging. Much bigger rocks and loose stuff, but it was doable.
This is the Galleria Monte Siguret, a fairly long tunnel that is very dark once you are a couple hundred meters into it.
Holy crap! There it is. Snow. So far so good though. We are at 2450 meters. I think it's still 400 to go. Very interesting. That's Soldier Run.
As I keep climbing, I can start spotting little specks of snow here and there. They litter the landscape, rendering it actually quite beautiful. But on the flip side, the runoff from the melted snow makes the trail quite slippery. So far so good though, it's not too bad here. But I am glad I don't have all my luggage with me.
I wonder whether we can... Well, I'm not so sure we can make it up this. Realistically, it's only going to get wetter, isn't it? It's already getting sketchy here. It looks really cool though. It looks so cool. Whoop.
A little higher, a little higher, a little higher. It's time to let go of your inhibitions. Feel the music, it's your new addiction. Better tell your feet to do something.
Still on the way up to Jafferau. Just noticed I lost the head of my tripod. I mean, I have no idea where it is. It's not even just the head missing, it's the entire thing that attaches the head to the tripod. I don't know if I should go down and try to find it. It could be anywhere. I mean, fucking sucks. Probably gonna go back down.
I did indeed go back down to try to find the head of my tripod, but I couldn't find it. I mean, I had no idea where exactly I'd lost it, and I'd covered quite a bit of ground from where I last knew that I had it. So I turned back around and went up the hill a second time. This time, knowing the trail and the conditions, I went a little bit faster, which was actually quite fun.
Carried to your sweet embrace, away and now, seduced by a sweet mirage. We could leave or we could stay, stay a while away. I can do this anymore, it's hurting like it never has before. We could leave or we could stay.
I mean, sure, you could have tried to keep going further up here, but there were decent-sized patches of snow on the road. Not in the... I mean, the bit that I was filming here was certainly manageable. You could have gone around the bigger patches of snow on the right side, but further up there was a fairly large continuous snow cover on the road. I spoke to some guys on enduro bikes who were chilling just around this corner, and they also agreed that it wasn't possible to get up to the fort, which was about another 300 meters of elevation further up. Maybe if I'd had somebody else with me, we could have tried to fight through the snow here with teamwork, but being alone and seeing as it was already 4 p.m, it didn't seem to make much sense to me to keep going. So I decided to call it an early day and had a relaxed ride back down into the camp. I set off towards Assietta and began my day of gravel riding on the Col delle Finestre, which is a lot of fun actually, because it's a well-maintained gravel road where you can actually go quite fast.
No. Pretty Caroline, stone cold stunner. She was a winner, started working at the dine. Surface of her mind, to count your blessings, 'cause it's telling fair, put you down and leave you there, make them scared. Yeah, it's the ugly truth. How they come back for you. Yeah, yeah, no. Don't you think you're better off where the neighbors don't stare? Maybe you're wanted, looking good for the movie screens, living in make-believe, hoping your wishes get granted.
Still, I kept my speed at a reasonable level. You know, it's not a rally, and code of conduct and all that.
Unless it's real, a slippery slope. It's not enough to please you. Pretty Caroline, stone cold stunner. She was a winner, started working at the dine. Surface of her mind, to count your blessings, 'cause it's telling fair. Put you down and leave you there, don't make them scared. Yeah, it's the ugly truth. How they come back for you. Yeah, yeah. It's the missed opportunity train. It only comes on a very blue moon. Blink twice, and you missed it again. Waiting in line for the party to end.
Having arrived at Assietta, I found it to be closed. I took a little break here and ate my breakfast, and while I was doing so, a group of Italians arrived in an old Land Rover, and they said they hadn't noticed that it was closed and that it was traversable throughout. So I decided to skillfully ignore the sign. Shortly after I rounded my first corner on Assietta, two guys on Africa Twins came the other way, and I stopped them to ask one more time whether it was fully accessible, and one of them actually recognized me. But that's a proper coincidence, eh? 500 people follow me on Instagram, and one of them just happens to be on Assietta at the same time as me. So ciao Antimo, if you see this. It was nice to meet you. Assietta is a beautiful road to ride for adventure riders. There is just views abound, and the weather was brilliant. I couldn't have asked for anything better.
Magnifico. Bella Italia.
I'd planned to go down to Ul, but because of this odd sign and because I wanted to see Sestriere, I decided to go down on that side, which added a little bit of time to the journey and actually came back to bite me in the ass later because I kind of ran out of time. But regardless, it was nice to see Sestriere, and I had a nice coffee there before then continuing on and enjoying some of the splendid mountain roads in the area. And so I arrived at the final place I wanted to go, which was Sommeiller. Ever since I read about this place a couple of years ago, I always wanted to come here. Now, the trouble is it was already quite late when I started up Sommeiller, so I upped the pace a little bit to try and make sure I could make it. This Mitsubishi was the last car, and in fact its driver was the last person I saw on Sommeiller that day. I didn't realize just how much further it was to go from this point on. The road kept climbing and climbing and climbing.
Recently melted. Go through the snow inside. This is all melted today or yesterday, judging by how wet it is.
And eventually there was snow on the side of the road, and not long after on the road. I had decided earlier that 5 p.m. was my turnaround time, because the last thing I wanted was to get caught out in the dark or to run into some technical issue and then get caught out by the cold and the dark.
This is where it gets interesting, I guess. Wow, what a view. It's so snowy up here. Wow. I sort of get the feeling I should go back now, because it is getting late. It is now 5 o'clock and I said I'd turn back at 5. So I should probably stick to my own rules. I'd like to see what's behind that corner. Maybe I'll just go there. How far is it still? There's still quite a long way to go. No, I'm not going to do that. That's crazy. I could just go down there. Yeah, I'm just going to go down there and take a look. Now I'm going to come back up. Whoa. Okay, it's very slippery. Very slippery indeed.
If I'd had my gear with me, that being my tent and my sleeping bag mainly, I wouldn't have had an issue going further. Worst case scenario, I could have camped out. My gear is good enough to camp out at these temperatures for one night. But seeing as I didn't have my stuff with me and I had absolutely no cell reception up here, that made me a bit queasy, and I decided it wasn't a brilliant idea to keep pushing on into unknown territory with unknown conditions. So I decided to come back another time for the col and the summit, if you will. ever since I saw the Top Gear Greatest Driving Roads episode.
The Stelvio Pass.
Stelvio has always been on my list of roads to drive. I'd initially wanted to take a route through Stelvio on my way down into Italy, but unfortunately there was snow on it at the time, so it was closed. But on Friday, when I checked, Stelvio had just opened up again. There was snow forecast for Saturday afternoon, so I decided Friday evening to leave the Susa Valley and make a run for Stelvio in the morning. It's about 400 kilometers. And remember that there was snow forecast for the early afternoon, about 2 p.m. I think, if I recall correctly. So I left around sunrise and made a run for it. I arrived in Bormio in the early afternoon. Quick fuel stop, and off I was onto Stelvio. I just have to say Stelvio was completely worth making this drive for. I don't care what you gotta do. Just, if you've never been to Stelvio, take the time, go there.
I remember when we said everything will happen.
went down on the Austrian side and back up, and then descended down into Switzerland on the Umbrail Pass.
Left at like 7:30 this morning and just legged it to Stelvio. Been on the bike for over 6 hours now, so it's time for a spot of lunch. Snow on the mountains in the back. It's just gorgeous.
Now this part of the trip was basically just me going home on the more or less shortest route. But before I could reach the Swiss highways, I had to make my way across the Biosphera Val Müstair. My God, was it a surprise. An absolutely beautiful area of Switzerland that I've never seen before. One of the most beautiful places that I've ever seen. Completely by accident, I was floored by the beauty of the countryside here. Now, between me and the Swiss highways there was one more significant mountain pass. The Flüela Pass, between Souche and Davos. And this is where, once again, the weather made everything just a little bit more interesting. Just as I was arriving near the top, a light sprinkling of snowfall set in. Difficult to see on the camera, but it's there. Snowy clouds hanging over the mountains that line the valley, the light snowfall and the 0 degrees on my dash lended a very mystic atmosphere to this mountain pass.
Check this shit out. It's snowing up there. I just came from there. Cold as fuck. 0 degrees. But look at this. It's fucking beautiful. Incredible. Alrighty then.
And after a few more kilometers through Graubünden, I eventually joined the Swiss highways and made my way up towards the German border, and then under the cover of darkness through the Black Forest back to home base.